So we have a new poll out that is fairly disturbing. It shows that Joe Biden's lead is narrowing to Donald Trump, and not just nationally, by the way, but in the states, battleground states specifically. So let's get into some of the numbers, right? So now overall, 50% of registered voters now back the Biden Harris ticket. 46% say they back Donald Trump. So now this is a CNN poll, and I know that there are other polls that come out, like a Washington Post ABC poll that immediately is like, oh, no, Biden's up by 12. That's a big difference in polls, and obviously a big difference in methodology. But we're still going to talk about this because I don't think that ABC News Washington Post poll invalidates the CNN poll at all. I think it is interesting to look at this and the differences between the two. And so this, of course, weighs independents more, which happen to be a little bit more of a factor because independents, as you've seen in 2016, and non-affiliated voters and first-time voters made a big difference in some of these battleground states. So anyway, we'll talk about that. So now, by the way, I get strong 2016 vibes from this. We all remember this, okay? So they're within the margin of error, 4%. That's plus or minus 4%. It could go either way. You could have Biden win, or you could have a Trump winning nationally, you could have Trump tying nationally, I suppose. And so not good. So more numbers, right? So now, enthusiasm. I've talked about how there's probably an enthusiasm gap, right? It turns out that 72% of voters say that they're either extremely or very enthusiastic about voting this fall. And among those people, Biden has an advantage over Trump, 53 to 46. All right, so that's pretty good. That's about 7%, right? But as I pointed out, there's a Pew poll taken earlier this month, and it found that the reason that most people are enthusiastic to vote is not because of the candidate himself, at least when it comes to Biden. They're really just more enthusiastic to vote against Donald Trump. You have 2/3 of Americans that are like, yeah, I'm not voting for Biden. I'm voting to remove Donald Trump. So that is the enthusiasm gap, even if they're enthusiastic to vote just to get rid of Trump. And so, man, that's a problem. Now, the people who voted for or who are going to vote for Donald Trump are very enthusiastic about voting for Donald Trump. They want Trump. And that is very clear. In fact, Trump's polling among Republicans has actually rebounded back into the mid-80s, where it was a little bit lower, actually in the high 70s. So, ooh, boy, disaster. Biden is not exciting anybody. That's a problem for the Democrats. You've heard the saying, right? Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. And the weird thing is that it's, they're asking for the situation to be reversed, or at least for Democrats to fall in line. Problem is, the left does not do that. We are really, really bad at falling in line. Even with a literal near fascist, you still have a lot of Democrats out there saying, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. That is a problem. And of course, it's not just Democrats, but your problem is independents. So independents, those are very important to win an election. Okay. And so it's almost as if we should have nominated somebody who had who not only could beat Donald Trump, but had a very engaged, enthusiastic base of young activists. I know. If only there were a candidate like that had been running and didn't get screwed over. But okay, now we're stuck. So back to the numbers, right? So Biden, in another troubling result, is actually facing a really close race in battleground states. So nationally, it doesn't matter as much as the battleground states because you have the Electoral College. Across 15 battleground states, the survey finds that Biden has a backing of about 49% of the registered voters, while Donald Trump is right behind him at 48%. Uh-oh. CNN notes that the pool of battleground states favors Trump more so the map is more favorable to Donald Trump than it was in 2016. In fact, the battleground states this time around are, more like are ones that Donald Trump carried back in 2016, 10 of them. then were won by Hillary Clinton, 5 of them, reflecting the reality that the president's campaign is more in defense across than offense across the states. But taken together, though, they represent, according to CNN, a more Republican-leaning playing field than the nation as a whole. And so that's not good, right? And so maybe I don't know, maybe I would try to engage younger, more progressive voters. That would be my solution. But of course, they're not going to go in that direction. In fact, they would want to go to Republicans. Joe Biden's campaign has been reaching out mostly to disaffected Republicans while saying to progressives, we need you. Well, if you need us, I mean, we're here if you can give us some policy to back us, to back you up. So far, we haven't really seen a whole lot on that. So now, if you're going to reach out to Republicans, well, at least you've got the Lincoln Project guys. You got George W. Bush, Anna Navarro, but that's not a majority of Republicans. In fact, again, 86% of Republicans are backing Donald Trump, probably more because there are Republicans out there that will be like, oh my God, I'm so disgusted with Donald Trump, and then vote for him inside the voting booth. Oof, not good. Not good. Biden, of course, is getting significant pushback from the Democratic base because, well, he's not doing progressive policy. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit later because there is some drama about the public option and a very real possibility that Biden's not going to fight for that either. So, oof. All right. But anyway, now the movement in the polling among voters nationwide since June is concentrated among men. They split evenly back in June. Now 56% of men back Trump, 40% back Biden. Those between the ages of 35 and 64 tilt toward Trump now, but were Biden leading back in June. And independents in June, Biden held a 52 to 41% lead. Now it's near even, 46 Biden to 45 Trump. And so that's a massive loss, by the way, in independent voters and men. It's almost as if anything that Biden has done lately has not done anything to bring those two groups or to keep those two groups backing Joe Biden. It's almost as if Kamala Harris picking her did nothing to attract any of those people. It's weird. By the way, out of the choices, I think a lot of independents more favored Elizabeth Warren to Kamala Harris, even though, of course, to be fair, among Democrats are generally pleased and are okay with the choice of Kamala Harris. So now there's a poll here, by the way, which is fielded by Survey USA and sponsored by Fair Vote, that talked to about 1,300 Democratic and independent voters. And they said, well, who would you like to see as, the VP pick, right? Well, Warren led among independents, garnering 28% to Harris's 23%. So they wanted Elizabeth Warren. No Elizabeth Warren. Now Kamala Harris. And so independents are like, well, I'm just not interested then. Because Elizabeth Warren, as much as many problems we have here on this show with Elizabeth Warren, she at least has, progressive ideas on corruption, especially, right? Taking out that corruption, fighting against the banks, things like that. And so that's something that a lot of people wanted to see. Now, Harris, for example, what did she bring to the table? I mean, how did picking the top cop help Biden's ticket at all when Joe Biden also has a lot of problems with racial justice? And Kamala Harris, also her record as DA, I mean, already the Trump campaign is hitting her from the left on that issue. I mean, they said they will not legalize marijuana, for example. If Donald Trump comes out with an executive order saying, I'm going to legalize marijuana, I don't care. Well, I mean, that would be a huge blow to the Biden-Harris campaign. They didn't think about this? They should have. Now they've lost independents to Donald Trump. The race is much tighter, at least when it comes to this poll. And so, of course, when you look at Real Clear Politics, that has an aggregate of all the polls, Biden still leads somewhere around 8% nationally. But really, it's those battleground states that you got to look at. And and there is a tightening race in those places. It's not been good. And so, look, issues, right? So on issues, of course, most people agree, other than, when it comes to the economy, that Joe Biden is a better pick, right? And so, they care about these things. And again, Biden is shown to have been, to be more supported because he knows what he's doing. Okay. He would be considered to be a better steward on a lot of these different issues, except again for the economy, which is amazing because under Donald Trump, we're in a recession. That doesn't make any sense. So it amazes me that anybody could think that someone like Donald Trump or any Republican would be a good steward on the economy. It's one of the biggest lies that has ever been told to the American people. Oh, no, Republicans are great in the economy. How come every time we have a Democratic president, our economy gets better? Every time we have a Republican president, we get into a recession or a depression. Weird. Weird how that works out. Yeah. And look, there's a reason Republicans break government so it doesn't work, so they can privatize it. That's the whole point. Break things, give money to their donors. That's it. Democrats need to make that case, but they're not doing it. They're not doing it. And unfortunately, on some level, Democrats will agree with the Republicans on levels of privatization. Like, for example, with healthcare, they refuse to support Medicare for all and are only with a private insurance model coupled with some version of public support. Not even a public option. They mainly say tax credits and subsidies, which mainly helps insurance companies. I know in the platform they're saying, well, we should do a public option. Well, we'll see how that goes. It's amazing that Democrats really don't have that good of a healthcare plan during a pandemic. ACA fixes. I know, again, they keep talking about, well, we support the public option. But as I'm going to explain in another story, they're actually not going to go forward with the public option. And I could guarantee it. Really, their idea is tax credits, subsidies, bring back the individual mandate. That's incredibly unpopular. And so all that's going to do is just going to end up raising prices more. It's not a plan. It's a corporate giveaway to health insurance companies. So this poll, I mean, not good. It's not a good poll. Maybe it's an outlier. We'll have to see what subsequent polling also says. Again, I'm not saying the ABC Washington Post poll, which does paint a bit of a rosier picture of Biden versus Trump. I mean, I'm not saying that that's false either. But what I'm saying is I'm getting 2016 vibes all over again. And that's not a good place to be. If this election is as consequential as Democrats always say it is, well, then these numbers should scare the crap out of you. Maybe Biden will get a convention bump. There's that. I mean, that's happening this week. But judging from the amount of Republicans that are going to speak at it, probably not. If I were you, I would be very, very worried.